What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another live stream here on Rangers Central. And we have some big breaking news this morning. Not Rangers related, could be Rangers related. I'm not entirely sure as of today. But news out of Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Penguins have parted ways with Mike Sullivan. And this obviously brings up the biggest in your face. This is probably the next Rangers head coach. Like that, this is an eyebrow raiser, is what I'm trying to say here. And this is the type of move that it looks like the Rangers would make because we've heard Chris Drury has wanted Mike Sullivan. It would make sense considering how much Chris Drury loves his U.S. guys, considering this track record that Mike Sullivan has as part of being in this organization at one point as well. So we got a lot to get into in this episode. I have a lot of thoughts in terms of if he's going to be the next guy. I have thoughts on what I would think if he is the next guy, which, I'll get into in a minute. But before I do, leave a like on your way into the show here. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel and turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live on the channel. Now, here are my thoughts if he's going to be the next guy. I think so. I think that as long as, because I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong here, I'm pretty sure Pittsburgh has to give permission to Mike Sullivan to leave for another destination. And it would make sense for Pittsburgh to let him come here, but they also might, out of respect, considering, he's won 2 cups in that city. So let the guy go and be wherever he wants to be. And if that's the case, then so be it. And I think he's going to be the next head coach at that point. I also have this theory, and I could be wrong here. There is this part of me that feels like maybe there was, and people are going to say, the soft tampering thing with Brady Kachuk, right? There is this part of me that does feel like, was there some sort of tampering here? Because John Tortorella gets fired out of Philly. Mike Sullivan now parts ways in Pittsburgh, and the Rangers have their head coach position open and their defensive assistant coach position open. Doesn't that kind of scream like a match made in heaven there? I could be wrong, but doesn't it scream that to anyone? Maybe I'm over analyzing that. Maybe I'm reaching on that. I don't know. Maybe I'm entirely wrong. But it is kind of interesting when you really think about that. Now, I think that he's going to be the next head coach because it seems like this is who Drury has wanted. I mean, we've heard since Gerard Gallant was being named the head coach that the Rangers every single time, and I guarantee you that they would have fired Laviolette even after a President's Trophy winning season last year. If last year was the year that Pittsburgh moved on from Sullivan, I guarantee you they would have fired Laviolette after winning the President's Trophy to get this guy. This is the guy that Chris Drury wants. So that's why I believe the Rangers are going to land him. I could see the Boston thing because Charlie McAvoy, the connection there with him being his son-in-law, I believe. So there is that connection there. But to me, this reeks of the Rangers are going to do every single thing in their power to get the guy. And I think it's going to happen. Now, my opinions. Do I think this is, and I put a poll in the chat here. How would you feel if Sullivan was the next head coach? I put, this is a slam dunk hire. Good, but the core is the issue. 50-50 and no more retreads. As of right now, good, but the core is the issue is leading. Is this a slam dunk hire in my opinion? No. No, it's not. And I'm going to explain why, because I get that there's going to be fans that are like, well, look at the track record. Look at every single thing he's accomplished in this league. Look at the rosters that he's took with Pittsburgh and still somehow squeezed juice out of those rosters. And I'm not disputing any of that. Like, do not get me wrong. I am not ignoring the track record as is. But my problem is when you look back at even Peter Laviolette's track record, and I agree, listen, Mike Sullivan is a better coach than Laviolette. I want to preface that before I even jump into my thought here. Mike Sullivan is miles ahead of Peter Laviolette as a head coach. But we can't ignore the fact that the thing that we liked about Peter Laviolette, or at least some of us did, there's obviously people that didn't want Laviolette, but people like me and others that want Laviolette, we looked at the track record and said, this is the move to make because he is a Hall of Fame head coach when he decides to stop coaching. Like, this is no doubt a Hall of Fame head coach, but we saw how that worked out. I think Mike Sullivan is more adaptable. I think he's more up to date with today's game. I think he's less stubborn compared to Peter Laviolette. But there is this part of me that is like, it's not a coincidence that there's been one head coach to win Stanley Cups in multiple destinations. And my biggest problem is with this idea, because I have one problem, actually two. I have two problems. One of them's a little silly. The other one is a little bit more valid. But my biggest problem really is this organization just has a knack for doing this where guys succeed in other destinations and then they bring these guys in and it's just not the same. I mean, we just saw it with Laviolette. We've seen it with Gerard Gallant. We've seen it with players all the time as well. We've seen it where guys go succeed elsewhere. They come here because they get overpaid and it doesn't work out. It's just not the same compared to how they were in previous stops. So that's something that is in my mind because there's this part of me that is like, I want the Rangers to just develop their own Mike Sullivan, which they could have had Mike Sullivan, right? They just promoted him. But there's this part of me that really, really wants the Rangers to bring in some new blood, bring in a fresh mind, and develop their own Sullivan. But to counter that, and I even have this debate in my head, and I'm sure you guys are going to bring up the counterpoint as well. Maybe this core needs more of a Mike Sullivan than what I'm saying, and maybe the next coach should be that kind of guy where it's the new blood. It's let's develop our own Mike Sullivan. That's really the thing that comes to my head the most of all things. But that's the problem here where that's the biggest problem that I have here. One of the bigger problems that I have here is just thinking about that where guys succeed elsewhere, come here, and it's just not the same. Like, that's one of the things with a guy like Sam Bennett in particular, who I've talked about, jokingly said, partially jokingly, but I've said before, just seems like a Rangers type of move to go out and get Sam Bennett this summer because he won a cup in Florida. He might win another cup in Florida, and he's just going to come here. He's going to get overpaid, and it's not going to be the same as he was there. You need to find your own Sam Bennett. You need to find your own bottom six players like we talk about all the time. You need to find all these type of players. Same applies for a head coach. I mean, we see it all around the league. Like I said, it's not a coincidence that guys win in one stop, go to another stop, and then they don't win. So that's my reasoning why I don't think it's a slam dunk. And then on top of that, and this is more reflective on the Rangers than Mike Sullivan, Chris Drury's the GM. The players are who they are. And as much as Mike Sullivan is a good head coach and the track record's there, the problem is you have a core that quits on every single head coach. And I could tell you right now, if Mike Sullivan is here and John Tortorella is here, there are none of these games anymore. There isn't. Like, this would be a no bullshit. You come to the office, you come to the rink, and you are expected to play your damn ass off. And there are no excuses, which should be the standard to begin with. But I could tell you right now, they would not put up with this bullshit. But the problem is a lot of these guys have no move clauses. The problem is that they still do quit on coaches no matter what. But they would not put up with this crap. And I would hope that it would result to the point where if it if a Mika Zibanejad is going to cry and whine the way that he has this past year, the Rangers, Mike Sullivan and John Tortorella better put his ass in the press box and say, if you're going to whine and be this way and not buy in, enjoy the press box or get out. So that's the one thing that I would love about the idea, but assuming it goes that way, because I thought with Peter Laviolette, he would be more that type of guy to discipline the veterans as much as he disciplines the younger players. Did not be the case. Did not end up being the case. But that's what I would hope for, at least with Mike Sullivan coming here. The problem also, like I said, though, just to get back to the main point here, with the personnel, with the players here, it's not good enough right now as is. And that's the biggest thing, is that I still have my reservations with this group of players, with currently how they're currently constructed, because we see it in Pittsburgh. It does not matter how good Mike Sullivan is as a head coach. He has Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin over there in Pittsburgh. He had Jake Gensel over there in Pittsburgh. He had all this talent in the world, and it did not matter because look at that decor. It did not matter because look at the bottom six. And then even certain top guys just not performing up to par at points. Because the Rangers don't have a Sidney Crosby. The Rangers don't have a Jake Gensel. They don't have a Malkin. On the back end, yeah, they have Fox, which is better than anything Pittsburgh has had over the past few years, outside of Chris Letang, obviously, in his prime. But that's the thing that you do have to think about, is that as good as a head coach as Mike Sullivan is, there has to be a lot more in the arsenal from Chris Drury, which I still obviously have my doubts about, to where I don't know if this is a slam dunk hire just because of the things that I've laid out. Because to me, nothing matters entirely. And I've said this for weeks. Nothing to me matters entirely until Chris Drury is gone. But I will say, if there is one guy that would move me to potentially think there is some sort of chance with this core to go on some sort of run, Mike Sullivan would be that type of guy to move me in the slightest. But again, how much could he really take this team the distance? Like, how far could they realistically go? So those are my thoughts, because there's no doubt when you look at the track record, like I said, the 2 cups, you look at analytics, consistently a top team in expected goals for at 5-on-5, actual goals for per 60 at 5-on-5. So there's a lot of good here, but there's just this part of me that wants to be, and maybe it's just because of the fact that I was so high when they hired Gerard Gallant. I was so high on them hiring Laviolette, and both ended the way they did, to where I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I want to proceed with caution about being happy about Mike Sullivan if they hire him. Maybe it's just me, and I'm just kind of scarred from that, but it's just the way that I feel. And you know what? I still do realistically think that the best way to win in this league is to develop your own coach and develop your next Mike Sullivan, your next John Cooper. But I just have this feeling it's going to be Sullivan. And I will say that he walks in that dressing room, no more of this bullshit. No more of this bullshit, especially if Tortorella's coming in with them to be an assistant coach, which ironic that they're switching roles from when they were last here. But no more bullshit at all. And if there is, then you could sit in the press box or get out. Because there's no world where Sullivan or Tortorella are going to want to hear the bullshit from this team and see the lazy back check effort, see the lack of will, the lack of want to defend. Which the biggest thing that I will say that does shed some positive spin on this is, I was listening to Brian Boyle, Larry Brooks, Molly Walker on their podcast, the I forgot the name of it, but you can look at the New York Post YouTube channel. I recommend watching that podcast in full. It was 50 minutes of Brian Boyle and Larry Brooks just absolutely ripping this team to shreds, and I loved every single second of it. Pretty much hammering the points that I've brought up here and that you guys in the chat know about, but we were called idiots for saying all these things because we don't know what's going on. But those guys are close to the situation and told you the same things that we were saying here. So again, it's not bullshit. Up in the Blue Seats podcast. Thank you. Up in the Blue Seats. Go listen to that. I recommend it. Brian Boyle at one point during that episode was talking about how, you know, you need that lack of will to defend. You need to be willing to go to the rink and actually play a hard-nosed game. And he said no one at the MSG, no one that works at MSG is concerned about how many ice packs they're going to use because these guys just throw on the gear and go out for a skate. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something along those lines. But he was talking about how the thing that really helped him, and he said that I wasn't great with defending until I got to pro hockey, and I credit a lot of that to John Tortorella. If John Tortorella and Mike Sullivan are here, you would hope the same happens, but the difference is that Brian Boyle has it up here. And you could hear that when he was talking about this group the entire episode because he was just calling them soft, calling them fragile, and same with Larry Brooks, who's close to the situation, obviously. But Brian Boyle had it up here and had the will to do all those things. Does this group have that will? To be determined, I guess. I don't see it based on the history. But like I said, I mean, Torts and Sullivan would not put up with the garbage around here of them not willing to defend. I have this feeling though that this is the guy, like it's so obvious that Drury's going to want him. It is so obvious to me that he looks at the coaching staff and thinks Tortorella, or sorry, Sullivan, I should say, is the head guy. Tortorella, Muse, Pekka. And then maybe Pekka's your next head coach. Or hopefully Sullivan actually works out here to the point where an organization is going to want to pluck Pekka from you at some point. But again, this is all to be determined. We will see. I'm going to get to the chat and see what you guys are saying about this idea. Would love to hear the opinions here, just to look at the poll right now and get your guys' opinion further. Good, but the core is the issue is still leading at 51%, which is pretty much the way that I lean for the most part. 50-50s at 9%. This is a slam dunk at 32%, and no more retreads at 7%. So, interesting. And those are 75 votes there. I tend to lean, though, towards that side of it, too, where it would be a good hire. It's not a slam dunk. It's a good hire. The core is the issue, and I have my questions of, can you win with a guy from a previous destination? Because we've seen it not work out. So let's see what you guys are saying. How are we feeling? Do we think that this is a slam dunk? Do we think that the Rangers need to go in a different direction? Let's see what you guys think. Sully is a good head coach, but Chris Drury is still our GM. So, and this is the way that I feel pretty much too. It's like, I love the idea, but the problem really comes down to, like I said before, the problem comes down to, is the personnel good enough? Which my answer would be no, even with Sullivan coming here. But that's just me. scared this is going to end up like Gensel 2.0 and he's going to end up in Boston. It could happen. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that it is. It's different than Gensel. The Gensel thing I really thought was going to happen because I thought it just made too much sense with the need the Rangers had for a play driver at the wing. I thought, okay, Jake Gensel, I mean, they got to do everything in their power to get him. President's Trophy team, go get him. I genuinely thought that was going to happen. This, I'm a little more hesitant. I think that they're going to do everything in their power to get him, but I could see a world where he does go to Boston. So I'm not sitting here counting my chickens before they hatch entirely here. This team's, I mean, mid is nice. Like, look at the back end. That blue line is horrible. The bottom six, I mean, even the top six. And listen, this would be the biggest positive that Sullivan would bring. This would be it. Would the pair of Sully and Torts work? Would Torts defer to him over the course of a season, especially since Torts is loved by Dolan Four Nations? It's different than a season. Could it backfire? It could. I'm not ruling that out. I mean, that's a fair question to have and a fair comment to make. I don't know, to be honest with you. I feel like it wouldn't be a big issue, but it is something to think about. Like, I'm not going to rule out that that's possible where the dynamic between the two could be a problem there because Torts is Torts, especially. And this is what I lean to think that Drury's relationship with Sullivan will prevail, but I still could see Boston. I definitely could see Boston. I think it's one of those two. I don't think he's gonna go anywhere else at all. I think that like Philly, no, I don't think Philly. Um, Seattle, no. I don't think who else has an opening right now? Anaheim, no. I think it's the Rangers or Bruins. Maybe it would be. There's an outside chance at Vancouver if they fire Tocchet, maybe. David Carl's not leaving. That's why. Sullivan favors the vets over anything sound familiar. This is another thing. Like, listen, again, this is why I don't think it's a slam dunk hire. But there are times that he has proved to hold veterans accountable as well. But he definitely does lean towards being a veteran favored coach over over the young guys. And this is my point too. Like, the core, how long will they be in on him? Because this has been my take throughout the offseason so far. And I've said it. No matter who the coach is, despite Drury, being who he is, which obviously that's a big thing. My other thing is that I've said that they'll buy in for a few months. It will be enough to get them in the playoffs for the first year. Then maybe they'll go on some deep run, but not good enough to win it all. And then we're going to be back at square one the next year because they're going to quit on him because, oh, we didn't win it all. Rinse and repeat. And yeah, the Rangers do need permission. I just got confirmation on that one because I wanted to make sure the Rangers do need permission to talk to Sullivan to begin with. So that's going to be very interesting to see if Pittsburgh's even going to allow Sullivan to interview for the Rangers job. I think that I think they will because, like I said, I think that when you look at it in the way of, the guy won 2 cups there, let him go where he wants to. I feel like that's going to be the case, but at the same time, maybe not. Maybe they are going to make sure that he's not the Rangers head coach or the Flyers next head coach or the Bruins. Maybe they'll say, you know what, he could go out west, but we don't want him coaching in the Eastern Conference. So I can't rule that out. That's something that could happen. But if he's allowed to talk to the Rangers, I have a feeling that he's going to just be the guy. But again, we'll see. And this definitely could be something that could be negotiated in some way between the two teams where the Rangers could be like, we know the pick is top 13 protected, but we'll let you have control of the pick. If you want to have this year's pick, we'll let you have it. If you want next year's pick, you could have it. Maybe that's something that's negotiated here, but we'll see. Sullivan just having to deal with wolf shin below average players is just him coaching this past Pens team. This is my point where it's like it would be a good hire, but how much because of the personnel, it's just like I just have questions because of the personnel. Yeah, and this is the thing, like, because Frank Saravalli, I was listening to uh the show that he was on with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohen, and they were talking to Frank, and Frank Saravalli was like, "Yeah, this could be done within 48 to 72 hours potentially if he has a place in mind and if everything aligns right." So it could happen soon. It could happen. It could happen today. Could happen tomorrow. I don't know. Let's see. Um, Solely to Dallas if they part ways with the Boar. I don't know if I see that unless, like I said, Pittsburgh's really hung up on we don't want him coaching in the Eastern Conference, and we're going to make sure of that. Unless that happens, I don't know if I see Dallas being the team to get him. That'd be an interesting dynamic, though. But I don't know if I see it. I'm really set on it being Rangers or Bruins, unless, like I said, Pittsburgh blocks him from going to either. Yeah, like this is kind of my thing here is that seems like an East Coast guy. He's from the East Coast, so I'm honestly not sure of this, but this is a good question. I would recommend asking Steven because he has the answers to everything. That's why I asked him in our mentions that if the Rangers needed permission or not to hire or talk to Mike Sullivan. Because Stat Boy Steven, when you have a question that's out of your wheelhouse or my wheelhouse, you go ask him. That's kind of my thing. because he is professional in, well, unofficially professional in CBA talk and literally everything. The guy knows everything. I mean, I lean towards this, or I think Sullivan's going to bring Torts onto the staff. If I had to make a prediction on that one. Right now we're at 99 votes, and yeah, so far 53% still leaning towards good, but the core is the issue. This is a slam dunk in second place, still at 29%, 50-50 at 12. No more retreads at 6. So keep on voting, people. Keep on voting. Listen, I agree with you, which is why my opinion is that this isn't a slam dunk. I would love, like, Sullivan's definitely towards the top of the list for guys that I would want. Don't get it twisted here. And I've said it for weeks now. Like, he is the one retread I would be okay with the Rangers hiring. But with that being said, like you're saying here, it does not matter if the GM still has no clue what he's doing because, again, we've seen it in Pittsburgh. Just look at the talent or lack thereof in Pittsburgh outside of Crosby, Malkin, Gensel when he was there. Letang in his prime. Look at the lack of talent there, and you know, similar similar problems in terms of a pretty bad decor. And then, like I said, I mean, this team does not have a Crosby or even a Malkin for that matter. So there's that whole thing too. No, this I disagree with. I mean, we're seeing how Trotz has been a terrible GM so far. So I don't know about that one. Panarin is better than Malkin. Yeah, the problem really is obviously, the playoffs. What happens with Panarin, and again, can Sullivan be the guy to get him to buy into being a good playoff performer? Who the hell knows? But that's a fair point. That one's fair. But the problem also is I just value wingers less than I do centers. He's better than Malkin, but you get my point that like centers just have a bigger impact on the game itself. And I'm sure that there's gonna be people that argue Miller's better than Malkin at this stage of his career, which I can't disagree there, but I'm talking prime Malkin here. Because Pittsburgh was winning when Malkin was in his prime. Hey, I'm not disagreeing that this could happen. Not disagreeing at all, Sharp. I'm not sure if the Rangers have started the interview process, but I could tell you, like I said, I mean, they're going to cancel interviews with whoever until there's word on Sullivan. They're not interviewing anyone but him. I like Sullivan better than most options out there. Just really structured and knowledgeable about development. This is the thing. Like, this is where it's different from Laviolette to a degree about he's more adaptable than Laviolette. Like, that's the biggest difference there. But I guess it also depends how much Drury could get in the ear of Sullivan. All right. So I'm gonna wrap things up here just because I think I got all my points in. I definitely did, and I'm sure I'll have more when I get off of this because that's just always what happens. Where I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot to bring up this point. It happens every single time. But yeah, I think I got my points in, and I'm sure again if I don't and Tortorella Sullivan ends up being the next head coach, I will get some of those thoughts in during that live stream. I'll be live whenever that breaks, unless obviously I'm sleeping or not home at the moment. And whenever I'm available to, if the move happens or if he goes to a different destination, I will go live right away for it. We'll have more live streams throughout the off season, so be on the lookout for that. But thank you everyone for tuning in and watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new to the channel, turn on your notifications so you know I upload or go live on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.